I loved collecting limited edition mystery boxes. Once, I finally managed to snag a super rare, limited edition figure. Overjoyed, I placed it gently on my husband's office desk. He glanced at it, then casually tossed it into the trash can. You're 26, Clara. Still playing with toys? Grow up. My heart sank. Left with no choice, I listed the figure on eBay. Almost the second it went live, it was bought by a local woman. She messaged me, saying she lived nearby and asked if I could hand deliver it to her place. The moment I stepped into her house, I froze. An entire wall of custom glass display cases met my eyes, packed to the brim with incredibly rare, astronomically expensive designer toys. The hostess smiled at me warmly. My younger boyfriend bought all of these for me, she said softly. I know I'm 38, but I still love these mystery figures. My boyfriend says that in his eyes, I will always be his little girl. He supports whatever I want to buy. As she spoke, the front door clicked open. A man walked in, carrying 2 cups of Starbucks. He walked straight over to her, leaned down and kissed her cheek. The moment I turned my head and saw his face, my entire body went numb. This man, who spoiled a 38-year-old woman like a queen, was the exact same husband who, just yesterday, had sneered and told 26-year-old me that I was being childish. Ethan Smith. Our eyes met. In an instant, every drop of blood drained from his face. Ethan, honey, you're staring. You're scaring her. Vivian wrapped her arm around his intimacy, then handed one of the coffee cups to me. She's Clara. She's the girl who sold me the limited edition figure. Ethan forced himself to look calm. He gave me a stiff nod. Hello. But the very next second, he turned his head to Vivian, his voice softening into a gentle tone I had never heard before. You don't need to buy second-hand figures anymore. Whatever you want, I'll buy you brand new ones. Vivian playfully shook his arm. Second-hand is fine. Otherwise, my heart aches thinking about how you have to wait in line for hours just to get those limited releases. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug deep into my palms. Yet I felt absolutely no pain. Just now, Vivian had bragged that this entire wall of toys had been sourced by her boyfriend from all over the world. One particular figure caught my eye, making my vision blur with tears. It was an overseas exclusive released a year ago. I had wanted it for so long. Back then, Ethan had been on a business trip to that exact country. I hadn't even dared to ask for the expensive figure itself. I had only quietly begged him to bring back a matching commemorative sticker. He had frowned coldly and snapped at me. I have a mountain of work to handle on this trip. I don't have time to mess around with useless little things. It turned out he wasn't busy. He just didn't want to spare even a shred of patience for me. For Vivian, he was more than willing to stand in line for an entire day just to get her the rarest collectibles. Oh, Clara, I actually have a duplicate of one figure. Let me give it to you. I'll go grab it from the bedroom. The moment Vivian turned and ran into the hallway, Ethan lunged forward. He grabbed my arm and dragged me into the corner near the entrance. Go home first, he hissed in a low, panicked whisper. Wait for me there. I'll explain everything when I get back. My voice cracked. Explain what? Explain how you've been keeping another woman behind my back. Explain your affair? A flash of sheer panic crossed his eyes. He shoved me out the front door and slammed it shut. My wrist throbbed where he had grabbed me. Tears finally spilled over, hot and uncontrollable. Through the heavy wooden door, their voices drifted out. Where did Clara go? I didn't get to give her the toy yet. I just had her leave first. She's just a stranger selling second-hand toys. There's no need to get close to her anyway. Then came the unmistakable, soft sound of them kissing. I leaned against the hallway wall, my stomach churning with sudden, violent nausea. I almost charged back in to scream at them, but a sudden realization hit me. My period was a month late. I stumbled all the way home, my hands shaking as I tore open a pregnancy test in the bathroom. 2 bright red lines. I was pregnant. Before I could even process the news, the front door lock clicked. Ethan was back. In a panic, I wrapped the pregnancy test in toilet paper and shoved it deep into the trash can. He walked into the living room. Seeing my deathly pale face, he frowned slightly. Why do you look so pale? Are you sick? He reached out to touch my forehead, but I coldly flinched away from his hand. About earlier, it's not what you think, he said, drawing his hand back with a sigh. Vivian is my childhood neighbor. When I was young and my family was struggling to put food on the table, her family practically kept me fed. She has congenital heart disease. Before her mother passed away, she begged me to take care of her. I only agreed to pretend to be her boyfriend to keep her stress-free, so she can recover. So you cheated on our marriage and bought her a whole wall of designer toys just to keep her stress-free? My chest felt so heavy, as if a massive boulder was crushing my lungs. I could barely breathe. Ethan, I only just realized that you have another home out there. And she is 8 years older than you. I couldn't control the volume of my voice anymore. My entire body was shaking like a leaf. You called me childish for liking these toys, but you flew across the globe just to fill an entire wall for her. A flicker of guilt crossed Ethan's eyes, and his tone softened slightly. Alright, look. I always thought those toys were stupid anyway. If you want them so bad, I'll buy them for you from now on. I'll handle things with Vivian. She has a weak heart and can't take any shocks. Do not go and make a scene in front of her. I stared quietly at this man I had loved for 6 years. Suddenly, he felt like a complete stranger. Ethan, let's get a divorce. He assumed I was just throwing a tantrum. A disdainful smirk played on his lips. Stop acting up. I'm only taking care of her. It's not like I don't love you. You're the one who holds our marriage certificate. You're my actual wife. Besides, you can't survive without me anyway. Don't mention divorce ever again. I have to go take Vivian to the movies now. Stay home and stop being so unreasonable. The front door clicked shut softly behind him. I squeezed my phone, my fingers trembling as my vision blurred. 6 years of dating. 3 years of marriage. I had poured my heart and soul into this relationship, only to be told not to make trouble for his mistress. Before I could even catch my breath, a Snapchat message from Vivian popped up on my screen. I am so sorry about earlier. My boyfriend has a bit of a temper, so we couldn't host you properly. I saved a mystery figure for you. Come over and get it whenever you're free, okay? I tapped into her Instagram profile. I scrolled all the way to the bottom, reading through years of her posts. Every single caption was about Ethan. The figure collection I wanted was completely sold out worldwide, but Ethan contacted the manufacturer directly and had a custom set made just for me. My birthday surprise was a giant box of rare figures. He even skipped a massive business meeting just to wait in line for them. My sweet boy spoils me so much. I casually mentioned that I liked a celebrity-endorsed figure, and he had it delivered to me the next day. My man always keeps his promises. In every single photo, there were traces of Ethan. Years ago, to help Ethan secure his first big business contract, I had drunk myself to the point of vomiting at dinner meetings just to get the investor's approval. All of that, just so he would occasionally have time to accompany me to a toy store. Yet he always found the time to snatch up the latest releases for Vivian at the very first second. By the time I scrolled past her last post, the sharp pain in my chest had faded into a cold, hollow numbness. I typed back a reply. No need. I don't want it. I didn't care about the toys anymore. And Ethan? I didn't want him either. I immediately contacted a divorce lawyer and packaged every single piece of evidence of his infidelity. That entire wall of figures in Vivian's house had been bought using our joint marital assets. When we went to court, I wouldn't leave them a single penny. That night, Ethan came home carrying a brand new, freshly released luxury box set of figures. He held it out to me. Look, isn't this the series you wanted for months? I didn't even look up. I continued folding my clothes. Return it. I don't want it. The smile on his face slowly dissolved into irritation. You literally cried begging me for this before. Now that I bought it, you're pushing it away? Stop picking fights on purpose, Clara. I really don't want it, I repeated, my voice entirely flat. What you owe me is never going to be paid back by a box of toys. His face darkened completely. Clara, is there ever going to be an end to this? Right then his phone rang. In his frustration, he accidentally hit the speakerphone. Vivian's sobbing voice echoed clearly through the quiet room. Ethan, my chest hurts so much. I can barely breathe. Ethan's face went pale. He spun around to rush out, swinging his arm back violently. His elbow slammed hard into my chest, throwing me violently to the floor. He didn't even notice. My lower back collided painfully with the sharp corner of the nightstand. I gasped, cold sweat breaking out on my forehead. The next second, a sharp, stabbing pain bloomed in my lower abdomen. Ethan. I grabbed the hem of his coat, my eyes red with sheer terror. My stomach hurt so much. Please take me to the hospital first. I'm begging you. He yanked his coat out of my grip with an impatient scowl. Enough, Clara. Stop using these fake illnesses to compete with her. She is facing a real life or death emergency. With that, he turned on his heel and rushed out. The pain in my abdomen grew excruciating. Something warm and wet began to trickle down my thighs. Using every ounce of strength left in my body, I dialed 911. By the time the ambulance rushed me to the hospital, it was too late. Because of the physical impact, I had miscarried. I lay on the cold hospital bed, my eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. My throat was so dry I couldn't even squeeze out a single tear. While the agonizing DNC surgery was tearing my body apart, Vivian posted on Instagram. In the photo, she was nestled comfortably in Ethan's arms while he leaned down, gently rubbing her chest. The caption read, Ethan was so scared. My heart actually didn't hurt that bad. I just wanted to trick him into coming over to cuddle me. Teehee, setting this post to hide from Ethan. Seeing those words, the emotions I had bottled up for years finally shattered. I buried my face in the hospital pillows and sobbed hysterically. I had waited 3 years for this baby. And because of one petty lie from her, my child was gone. Not long after, another message from Vivian popped up. Clara, let's meet up. You really have to take this figure, or I'll feel too guilty to sleep. My fingers hovered over the screen before typing a single word. Okay. Perfect. It was time to lay everything out on the table. The next day, the moment I walked up to the entrance of the designated cafe, Vivian charged straight at me. Before I could even react, she raised her hand and slapped me hard across the face. Slap. The sound was deafening. Clara, have you no shame? Vivian's eyes were bloodshot, her voice shaking with rage. I genuinely wanted to be your friend, but you've been seducing my boyfriend behind my back. I clutched my burning cheek, my ears ringing. She unlocked her phone and shoved the screen right in front of my face. It was a photo of Ethan and me holding hands, walking in the park a month ago. I went through your Instagram and found out you two have been hooking up for ages. You selling me that figure and coming to my house was just an excuse to brag and hurt me, wasn't it? Her crying grew louder, drawing the attention of everyone around us. She clutched her chest, her knees bending as if she was about to kneel on the floor. I'm begging you, please. My heart is weak. I can't live without Ethan. Please let us go. I'll give you my entire wall of toys, okay? The crowd of onlookers began to whisper, pointing their fingers and aiming their phone cameras directly at me. How shameless. Being a homewrecker and bullying a sick woman? Doesn't she fear karma? I took a deep, freezing breath. I raised my hand and slapped Vivian back with twice the force. Your boyfriend. My voice shook as I pulled our official marriage certificate out of my purse. Ethan and I have been legally married for 3 years. As for you, every single toy in your house was bought with our joint marital assets. My lawyer has already prepared the paperwork. I will reclaim every single cent. The crowd fell dead silent. Then the whispers shifted. Wait, they have a marriage certificate. So the sick woman is actually the mistress? Vivian swayed on her feet, her face turning pale. No, that's impossible. Ethan told me he was single. Before she could finish, a heavy hand grabbed my shoulder and shoved me aside. Clara. Ethan rushed forward, shielding Vivian protectively in his arms. The gaze he threw at me was filled with pure hatred. Who gave you the right to hit her? You know she has a heart condition. Vivian clung to his chest, whimpering softly. Ethan, tell me the truth. Are you married? Am I the other woman? Ethan hesitated for a single second. No. She's delusional. That marriage certificate is fake. She's just a crazy stalker who has been obsessed with me. Those words pierced through me like icy needles, freezing me in place. Ethan, how can you lie like this? We are legally. His face went completely cold. He grabbed Vivian's hand. Vivian hit her back. I stared at him in utter disbelief. She put her hands on you first. Give her what she deserves. I will never let anyone bully my girlfriend. His words gave Vivian all the confidence she needed. Slap. Another heavy blow landed on my other cheek. Vivian bit her lip, looking smug. That's what you get for lying and trying to be a homewrecker. You deserve it. Then she looked up at Ethan, putting on a worried face. But how did she get such a realistic certificate? Forging legal documents is a crime. Should we call the cops on her? A flicker of hesitation crossed Ethan's eyes. The next second, he snatched the marriage certificate from my hands and ripped it into pieces. The white shreds fluttered to the dirty pavement like drops of cold rain. I remembered the day we got married. He had held that certificate like it was the most precious treasure in the world, kissing it over and over. Clara, you're finally my wife. But in just 3 years for another woman, he had torn our marriage to shreds. It's just a fake piece of paper anyway. Now let's see what you used to spread your lies. His voice was cold and final. The crowd erupted again. So she really is a crazy stalker. What a psycho. Ethan's expression shifted slightly, and he seemed like he wanted to stop the crowd from crowding me, but Vivian grabbed his sleeve and collapsed. Ethan, my chest, it hurt so much. Before he could worry about anything else, he scooped her up in his arms. He threw a quick, cold glance at me before turning and running toward his car. The angry crowd surged forward. Shoves, curses, and kicks began raining down on me, but I couldn't feel any pain. The blows felt distant, as if they were happening to someone else. My vision blurred, and I welcomed the darkness as I passed out. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a hospital bed. Ethan was sitting beside me, holding my hand, his eyes bloodshot with exhaustion. You're awake? Don't move. You have multiple soft tissue bruises. You need to rest. I've dealt with the people who attacked you. Don't call the police. Let's just let this go. I slowly pulled my hand out of his grip and let out a dry laugh. Mr. Smith, what is our relationship? He paused, his brows furrowing. What nonsense are you talking about? Of course we're married. My eyes burned, but I just laughed louder. Married? Do we have a certificate? A flash of guilt crossed his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by impatience. Vivian has a heart condition. I had to say that at the moment. Why did you have to bring that paper out to provoke her in public anyway? Did you really want to watch her die right in front of you? It's just a piece of paper. I'll take you to get a replacement certificate once she's stable. It felt like my heart had been sliced open, letting the freezing winter wind howl through my chest. I gripped the hospital bedsheets tightly, barely able to breathe. Ethan, let me go. Let's get a divorce. I'll step aside for both of you. His breath hitched. A trace of panic flashed in his eyes and his voice softened. I had nothing when we started, Clara. You stayed with me through the worst of it. We are meant to be together for life. I'm only taking care of Vivian out of gratitude. As my wife, you should support me. Besides, if you hadn't gone to confront her with the certificate, I wouldn't have said those things. Just focus on resting. I'll make this up to you. He stood up and left, leaving the room in deafening silence. How pathetic. There were a million ways to repay a debt of gratitude, yet he chose the one that ripped my heart to shreds. I shook my head with a bitter smile, pulled the 4-needle out of my hand, and discharged myself. My bags were already packed at home. The signed divorce papers were placed neatly in the center of his desk. As I was about to carry my suitcase downstairs, the loud sound of a drill echoed from the living room. A few construction workers were busy working on the wall. Are you Mrs. Smith? One of the workers smiled warmly. Mr. Smith ordered us to install a custom floor-to-ceiling glass display wall for your designer toys. He paid extra to ensure we used the highest quality materials. Your husband really spoils you. Spoil me? I let out a mock laugh. I opened my phone, and Vivian's latest Instagram post popped up on my feed. In the photo, she was flaunting a massive 5-carat diamond ring on her ring finger. So glad my man finally cleared up the misunderstanding with that crazy stalker. We are going to be so happy. To all the irrelevant people out there, please disappear. The comment section was bustling. Someone asked about the wedding date, and she replied with a blushing emoji. Wedding is tomorrow. Every guest gets a limited edition mystery toy as a party favor. I looked down at my own ring finger, where a cheap silver band sat. When his first business failed, and he was completely broke, we had bought this ring from a street vendor for $15. He had held my hand with tear-filled eyes, promising, Clara, I can't give you a proper wedding right now, but I will make up for every single thing I owe you in the future. Now that he was incredibly wealthy and successful, he had all the money in the world to buy grand gestures, but they were all for someone else. The glass wall he promised me was never meant for me, and the diamond ring he promised was now on another woman's finger. The front door opened, and Ethan walked in. He glanced at the near-complete glass wall. Do you like it? I had them rush the installation just for you. Yeah. By the way, he paused, his tone casual, I'm going to hold a wedding ceremony for Vivian tomorrow. Her heart is failing fast. The doctors said she doesn't have much time left. I just want to do a good deed and make sure she doesn't leave this world with regrets. I smiled softly. I see. You're not mad. He was taken aback, then a look of relief washed over his face. He quickly pulled out his phone and wired a large sum of money to my bank account. Don't worry, it's just a fake wedding. Once it's over, I'll take you to get our marriage certificate replaced. Go buy whatever toys you want over the next few days. Fill up this wall. I'll check on it when I get back. I accepted the transfer and nodded. Okay. Before he could say anything else, his phone rang. Vivian's voice came through, sweet and needy. Ethan, come quickly. Help me choose my wedding dress. Ethan immediately turned on his heel and rushed out. The workers packed up their tools and smiled. We're all done, ma'am. Are you satisfied with the result? I thanked them and sent them on their way. Once they were gone, I went to the storage room, grabbed a heavy metal hammer, and walked back to the living room. I raised it high and smashed it hard against the glass wall. Shatter. With a deafening crash, spiderweb cracks shot across the expensive glass. One swing to shatter 6 years of devotion. One swing to destroy every ounce of love I had for him. One swing to end this broken marriage. We're done, Ethan. I dragged my suitcase out the door. Before boarding my flight, I set a scheduled email to go off the next morning. Attached were my miscarriage report and the photo of the shattered glass wall. The email body contained only one sentence. I returned your toy wall. Happy wedding. I turned off my phone and boarded the plane. When I landed the next day and turned my phone back on, a barrage of missed calls and texts flooded my screen. The airport in Seattle smelled of wet asphalt, pine needles, and the roasted bitterness of cheap espresso. Clara walked out of the terminal, her single rolling suitcase clicking rhythmically against the textured pavement. A cool, damp breeze swept off the runway, stinging her cheeks. She pulled her wool coat tighter around her shoulders, took a deep breath, and let the clean, crisp air fill her lungs. For the first time in 6 years, her chest did not feel compressed by an invisible hand. She hailed a cab and gave the driver the address of a small, furnished apartment she had leased online 3 days prior. It was located in a quiet, older neighborhood near the harbor, far away from the glittering high-tech district, where Ethan's company had its headquarters, and even further from the suburban townhouse they had shared. Inside the cab, she pulled out her phone. The screen was a solid wall of notifications. There were 82 missed calls. From Ethan, 15 from Vivian, and dozens of text messages that scrolled endlessly. She tapped on the first few messages from Ethan, sent early that morning just after her scheduled email would have landed in his inbox. Clara, what is this? What do you mean? Returned your toy wall? Why did you smash the glass? Where are you? Why aren't you answering your phone? An hour later, the tone had shifted. Clara, answer me. The medical report. The miscarriage. What is this? Is this some kind of sick joke to get back at me? You weren't pregnant. You would have told me. Then 30 minutes after that, the realization had evidently set in. Clara, please. Tell me which hospital you went to. Why didn't you tell me? I swear to God I didn't know. My elbow. I didn't mean to hit you. I was just in a hurry because Vivian was having an attack. Please, Clara, talk to me. The last message, sent only 20 minutes ago, was short and frantic. I'm at the house. Your clothes are gone. Clara, where did you go? Please. Clara stared at the screen, her expression blank. She felt no satisfaction in his panic, no surge of triumph at his distress. She only felt a profound, exhausting emptiness. The baby she had secretly carried, the tiny spark of life she had hoped would finally bring a sense of warmth to her cold home, was gone. No amount of late-night texts, frantic calls, or hollow apologies could ever bring that back. She tapped her finger on his contact card, hit block, and did the same to Vivian's number. Then she opened her email and sent a single, brief message to her lawyer, Sarah. Lynn. Sarah, I have reached my destination. Please proceed with the divorce filing. Do not accept any out-of-court settlements that do not involve a full audit of our joint accounts from the past 3 years. She locked the phone and slid it back into her purse. The cab turned a corner, revealing the gray, shimmering expanse of the Puget Sound. The water was rough, capped with small white waves under the heavy spring sky. Clara watched the ferryboats glide slowly across the bay, their yellow lights blinking through the mist. First time in Seattle, miss? The cab driver asked, catching her eye in the rearview mirror. Yes, Clara said softly, leaning her head against the window. The first time. It rains a lot here, the driver said with a friendly shrug. But you get used to it. The rain washes everything clean after a while. I hope so, Clara whispered. The ballroom of the Grand Hyatt was decorated in shades of blush pink and gold. Giant arrangements of white roses and orchids lined the aisle, and at the front of the room stood a massive, custom-built arch made entirely of clear acrylic blocks, inside of which were displayed hundreds of rare limited edition designer figures. It was the wedding Vivian had always dreamed of, a whimsical, childish fantasy brought to life with the budget of a multimillionaire. Vivian stood in front of the vanity mirror in the bridal suite, adjusting her lace veil. Her face was pale, but her eyes were bright with a triumphant glow. Ethan, honey, do you think the lace is too much? She called out, her voice sweet and high-pitched. Maybe we should have gone with the silk one instead. Ethan sat on the plush velvet sofa in the corner of the room, his head bowed, his hands gripping his knees so tightly his knuckles were white. His wedding tuxedo was immaculate, but his face was hollow, dark circles bruising the skin beneath his eyes. He didn't hear her. In his mind, the words from the email he had opened 2 hours ago were looping like a broken record. Clinical diagnosis: complete spontaneous abortion due to blunt force trauma to the lower abdomen. Patient presented with severe blood loss. And then, the image of the shattered glass wall in their living room. The thick, tempered glass he had paid extra to install, reduced to a heap of glittering, sharp dust on the hardwood floor, with the heavy iron hammer lying in the middle of the ruin like a crude tombstone. Ethan. Vivian walked over to him, her satin train rustling against the carpet. She reached out to touch his shoulder. What's wrong with you today? You've been staring at your phone for hours. It's our wedding day. You should be happy. Ethan flinched away from her touch, as if her hand were made of hot iron. Don't, he muttered, his voice hoarse. Vivian's smile faltered, her brows furrowing. Ethan, what is your problem? Is it that stalker girl again? Did she send you another fake document to ruin our day? I told you, we should have just called the police on her. She's completely out of her mind. She wasn't a stalker, Vivian, Ethan said, slowly rising from the sofa. His voice was incredibly quiet, but there was a cold, dangerous vibration in it that made Vivian take a step back. What? She was my wife, Ethan said, looking down at her. We were married for 3 years. The certificate she showed you in the cafe was real. Vivian's face went stiff, her lips parting in shock. What are you talking about? You told me she was just a crazy girl who had been harassing you at your office. I lied, Ethan said, his voice flat. I lied because I wanted to keep you happy. I lied because you said your heart couldn't take any stress. And because I lied, she's gone. Well, so what? Vivian's voice rose, a sharp, ugly note breaking through her sweet demeanor. She was just a temporary thing anyway. You've been taking care of me since we were kids, Ethan. You owe me. My family saved yours. When your father went bankrupt, you promised my mother on her deathbed that you would always protect me. I did protect you, Ethan said, his eyes scanning her face, noticing for the first time the subtle, cold calculation in her expression that he had spent years ignoring. I gave you a luxury apartment. I bought you every single toy you pointed your finger at. I stood in lines for 12 hours, missed investor meetings, and spent millions of dollars of my company's money to build that stupid wall of plastic in your living room. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, holding the screen inches from her face. It was the screenshot of her Instagram post, the one she had set to hide from Ethan, but which Clara's lawyer had successfully retrieved from her public profile archives before she deleted it. My heart actually didn't hurt that bad. I just wanted to trick him into coming over to cuddle me. Tee. Vivian's eyes widened, her face turning a pasty, sickly white. Ethan, that was just a joke. I was just playing around with my followers. A joke? Ethan let out a dry, rattling laugh that sounded like dry leaves scraping across concrete. Because of your little joke, I pushed my pregnant wife onto the floor. Because of your little joke, my child is dead. She was pregnant? Vivian whispered, her hands shaking. Yes, Ethan said. He reached down, slowly untied the silk bow tie around his neck and threw it onto the floor. And now I have nothing. Ethan, please. Vivian lunged forward, grabbing his lapels. The guests are already here. The priest is waiting. The media, your business partners, they're all in the ballroom. If you walk out now, your company's reputation will be ruined. You can't do this to me. Ethan looked at her hand on his chest, then gently, but with absolute finality, peeled her fingers off his suit. I don't care, he said. He turned and walked out of the suite, leaving Vivian standing in her grand, white lace dress, surrounded by the gold-framed mirrors and the scent of expensive roses that suddenly smelled like decay. By Monday morning, the news of the ruined wedding of the year had leaked to the local business journals. Smith Logistics CEO walks out on childhood sweetheart minutes before vows. The headlines were sensational, but the real damage was happening behind the closed doors of the Smith Logistics corporate office. Ethan sat at his massive glass desk, his hair disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. Across from him sat his chief financial officer, a gray-haired man named Arthur, and his legal counsel, a sharp young woman named Sarah Lynn, who was not his lawyer but Clara's. Mr. Smith, Sarah said, opening a thick leather binder and sliding a stack of bank statements across the desk. My client is filing for a unilateral divorce on the grounds of emotional distress, physical negligence leading to a miscarriage, and gross dissipation of marital assets. Ethan didn't look at the papers. I don't care about the money. Clara can have the house. She can have everything. Just tell me where she is. My client's location is legally protected, Mr. Smith, Sarah said, her voice cool and professional. And she does not want the house. She wants a full division of the company's equity. Arthur, the CFO, cleared his throat nervously. Ethan, we have a major problem. Miss Lynn's team has done a forensic audit of our accounts from the past 3 years. They've identified over $1.2 million in corporate funds that were classified as marketing expenses or client entertainment, but were actually used to purchase rare collectible figures and high-end jewelry for Miss Vivian Vance. Ethan's hand shook as he reached for his water glass. I authorized those transactions. You authorized them using company funds without the board's approval, Arthur said, his voice tight. That's embezzlement, Ethan. If this goes to a public trial, our primary investors will pull out immediately. The stock will collapse. You're looking at a complete bankruptcy and potentially criminal charges. Ethan closed his eyes. The weight of his decision seemed to press down on him, like a physical mountain. Clara doesn't want to see you in jail, Mr. Smith, Sarah Lynn said, her tone level. She simply wants what is fair. She wants 50% of your personal assets, a full settlement for her medical expenses, and a signed admission of fault regarding the physical altercation on the night of March 14th. The physical altercation. Ethan's voice cracked. I didn't mean to hurt her. I swear to God, I didn't know she was pregnant. Whether you knew or not, you left an injured woman bleeding on the floor to attend to your mistress, Sarah said, her eyes flashing with a rare touch of personal anger. The medical records from the ER show that if she had been brought in 30 minutes earlier, the pregnancy might have been saved. Your delay was the direct cause of her loss. Ethan covered his face with his hands. A low, ragged sob escaped his throat. I ruined it, he whispered into his palms. I had everything. She loved me when I had nothing, and I threw her away for a lie. You did, Sarah said, closing her binder with a sharp click. You have 48 hours to sign these terms, Mr. Smith. If you do, we will keep the settlement quiet and out of the press. If you do not, we will file the lawsuit publicly on Wednesday morning. She stood up, adjusted her briefcase, and walked toward the door. Wait, Ethan called out, his voice desperate. Just tell her I'm sorry. Please. Just let her know that I know what I did. Sarah Lynn stopped at the door, her hand on the brass handle. She turned back to look at him, this powerful, wealthy man reduced to a shivering, broken shell in his own luxury office. I won't tell her that, Mr. Smith, she said quietly, because she doesn't care anymore. And honestly, your apology is the least important thing she needs right now. The rain in Seattle was soft and constant, a gentle gray mist that blurred the outlines of the ships in the harbor. Clara stood behind the counter of her new shop, the Little Nest, located in a quiet courtyard in the Pioneer Square district. It was a small bookstore and tea shop smelling of old paper, lavender, and dried chamomile. She had used her portion of the divorce settlement, which had been finalized quietly 3 weeks ago, to buy the space. She didn't need the millions Ethan had offered in his desperate attempts to get her to speak to him. She had only taken enough to secure her independence and start this small, quiet venture. A bell chimed above the door, and a young woman walked in, shaking the water from her umbrella. Hi, Clara. Hi, Maya, Clara smiled, leaning against the wooden counter. You're early today. Maya, a local university student who worked part-time at the shop, dropped her backpack onto a chair. The bus was actually on time for once. Oh, by the way, the morning mail came. There's a package for you. She handed Clara a square cardboard box, wrapped in brown paper and sealed with heavy shipping tape. Clara looked at the return address. It was from a local shipping center in her old city. There was no name, but the handwriting was unmistakable, slanted, hurried, and slightly messy. Ethan. Clara felt a small, dull ache in her chest, but it was no longer the sharp, blinding pain of a fresh wound. It was like looking at an old scar on her knee, a reminder of a fall she had survived long ago. She took the box to the small back room, sat down at her desk and carefully sliced the tape with a pair of scissors. Inside, cushioned by layers of pink bubble wrap, was a single limited edition mystery figure. It was the crying angel, the exact figure she had snagged 6 months ago, the one Ethan had casually tossed into the trash can before telling her to grow up. Beside the figure lay a handwritten letter. Clara, I found this at an auction in Japan. It took me 3 months to track down another one in pristine condition. I know this doesn't change anything. I know it doesn't bring back our baby, or the 3 years of marriage I stole from you. I've signed the divorce papers. The company is being restructured, and I'm stepping down as CEO. I'm leaving the city next month to start over somewhere else. Vivian's family has taken her to a private clinic in Europe. We are no longer in contact. I just wanted to return this to you. You were 26. Clara. You were allowed to love beautiful, childish things. I was the one who was too stupid to see that the most precious thing in my life was standing right in front of me holding a toy. I'm sorry. I will never trouble you again. Ethan. Clara stared at the figure. The little plastic angel, with its delicate white wings and its hands clasped over its face, looked small and fragile in the dim light of her office. She remembered how much she had cried when he threw it away. She remembered the sheer, desperate hope she had held onto for years, believing that if she just worked harder, drank more at his business dinners, and tolerated his coldness, he would eventually love her the way he loved Vivian. She picked up the figure. It was cool to the touch, smooth and perfectly manufactured. But as she held it in her palm, she realized something strange. She didn't want it anymore. The magic of the toy wasn't in the plastic itself, it had been in the joy she felt when she was still innocent enough to believe in happy endings. Ethan's cruelty hadn't just destroyed her marriage, it had washed away the childish illusions she had used to protect herself from the coldness of the world. She stood up, walked to the small display shelf near the window, and placed the crying angel on the top shelf, next to a pot of green ivy. Clara. Maya called out from the front of the shop. A customer is asking about the chamomile blend. Coming, Clara said. She took one last look at the figure, then turned her back on it and walked out into the warm, bright space of her shop. 1 year later, the summer in Seattle was brief but beautiful. The sky was an intense solid blue, and the air was filled with the scent of salt water and blooming roses. From the public gardens near the shore, Clara sat on a wooden bench overlooking the harbor, a cup of hot tea in her hands. Her shop was doing well. It had become a quiet sanctuary for the neighborhood. A place where people came to read, to talk, and to escape the noise of their busy lives. She had made friends, real friends, who liked her for her quiet humor, her gentle patience, and her love of old books. She had even started collecting figures again, not the rare, astronomically expensive ones that Vivian had hoarded, but small, quirky ones she found in local thrift stores or received as gifts from her customers. They sat on her shelves at home, not as a symbol of status, but as a simple, colorful reminder that she was allowed to love whatever she chose. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was an automated notification from her banking app, confirming the final transfer of her monthly divorce settlement. She checked the balance, then closed the app. She had heard from Sarah Lynn a few months ago that Ethan's company had survived the restructuring, but he had completely vanished from the business scene. Some said he was working as a simple logistics consultant in a small Midwestern town. Others said he had gone abroad. Vivian's Instagram profile had remained dark for over a year. The perfect life she had curated so carefully had vanished the moment the money stopped flowing, and the spotlight turned away. Clara locked her phone and slipped it into her pocket. The sun was beginning to set, casting a long, golden light across the water. The ferry boats were returning to the docks, their deep horns echoing through the harbor like a gentle, rhythmic heartbeat. She felt a soft, quiet warmth in her chest, not the explosive, chaotic passion of her youth, but the steady, solid peace of a woman who had walked through the fire and come out the other side, entirely whole, and entirely her own. She stood up, brushed a few stray leaves from her skirt, and began her walk home. The path ahead of her was clear, bright, and completely open.